Coach Craig Berube sends a strong message to William Nylander. And should the Maple Leafs be players in the Quinn Hughes sweepstakes? You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Thank you for making the Locked On Leafs podcast part of your daily routine, and thank you for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network in North America. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NHL live bets all season long. What's happening, Dave? How you feeling today?
Not bad, snow day.
Dude, the weather in Toronto is absurd. I'm not a fan.
No.
Not a fan of this weather. And I know it happens every day. And people are like, oh, you live in Canada. What do you expect? And I still
doesn't mean I have to like it.
It doesn't mean I have to like it. That's right. Just like people in Florida, I bet they don't like sunburns, but guess what? They got to live with it if they want the sun. So it is what it is. It's good hockey weather, though. I bet the ODRs were plenty full around Toronto over the course of the day and probably this upcoming weekend. Got a great week of Leafs hockey coming up. I mean, we got Macklin Celebrini in town tonight with the San Jose Sharks, Connor McDavid on Saturday, and then after that, you got Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks coming to town after McDavid. So 3 straight games where, boy, oh boy, is it ever going to be one great week of hockey down at the Scotiabank Arena. And speaking of tonight's game, I mean, let's dive right into kind of what the big news of the day was on Wednesday. I'm not sure about you, but when I woke up and when I took to Twitter and saw what was going on at Leafs practice, and I saw that William Nylander had been moved down to the third line, my eyes just absolutely went up like the rock. I don't know about you, but I did not see that move coming. What did you make of Craig Berube shifting Nylander to the third line?
Yeah, no, did not see it coming. Like we talked a bit about Nylander's struggles lately and how things haven't kind of it's been tough, right? He hasn't looked the same.
I do need to point out also, I was just looking into it, like he has 0 points his last 4 games, and he only has 5 shots in the last 4 games and 0 points. That's not good enough for William Nylander. Not even close to good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly hasn't been good enough, and I didn't expect Craig Berube to think of doing something like demoting Nylander to the third line. Now, with Bobby McMahon out, we expected lineup shuffling to happen. Didn't expect Nylander to get bumped down to the quote unquote checking line. Like, it's not the place you expect Nylander to play.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the checking line. I am curious, like, if this is like how long, I guess, he'll have that leash for. Is this just something to start? Is this just sending a message to Willie? Like, that's almost what it seems like, and hopefully it wakes him up, lights a fire under his ass. But when asked about it today, Craig Berube said, quote, "Work your way through it. I would say he's got to get more involved, engage more in the game, and work his way through it." So clearly Craig Berube not happy with the effort, I guess, that William Nylander has been given the Maple Leafs lately. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding. Again, no points in 4 games. And the Leafs have played pretty well in those games and only 5 shots on goal. It's just not good enough for someone who's expected to kind of carry the water offensively for this team. So getting bumped down to the third line, he'll lose out on some minutes. But here's the thing with Willie. He's like the only one who typically likes to get called out publicly and can take it, I guess, and feels like that's kind of what's happening here. He's being kind of called out publicly, and the expectation is this should get him going, right? That should burn a fire for Willie. And by midway through the game, I could see him right back up into the top 6 because those legs will be churning again.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing, too. Like, Craig Berube is probably at the point, too, where he's like, I'm tired of constantly having to tell him to play better, yell at him. This is going to be my way now of doing it, right? Putting you in a position where you're not playing the comfortable offensively driven minutes that he had been with the second line. And look, this might also be a temporary thing where, maybe it does light a bit of a spark and then he gets bumped back up again. We've seen coaches kind of do that too with players. They'll kind of switch their mind when they feel that they're satisfied with what they're getting. And that's probably the big thing. They need Nylander to respond, because as good as the team has played lately, we know that there's another gear. There's another gear that's missing here.
Yeah.
So I do think that this is something, if I'm Craig Berube, you don't want things to linger. If you notice there's an issue and you've got an opportunity to send a little bit of a message, I'm fine with it, because we've talked so much about demanding accountability. This is one way that you do it.
100%. And we've been waiting for that to happen with one of the star players. And it does always seem to be Willie who ends up kind of feeling the wrath of the coach, which is interesting. But you look at this team and they're playing well right now. They're winning games, which is nice. But I think there's still more that this team can do. I want to go back to November 15th as kind of a date. So it's a little bit less than a month ago. Since then, they've really gotten unbelievable goaltending. They've gotten 948 goaltending. No, 948. Hold on. I had the stat here. Let me pull it up really quickly so that I don't butcher it. But it was really, really strong goaltending numbers. I know it's a 209 goals against since, but statistically, in terms of save percentage, I think it was maybe even better than that. Where is it here? It's 934 save percentage since November 15th. And it's not really all that sustainable. And you're going to start to see, some more goals come in the way of Toronto, which means you need more offense, right? Since then, they've got one of the best save percentages in the league, but they're 15th in goals per game. Less than 3 goals per game in that stretch. So that's where I'm squarely looking at William Nylander, especially with the goaltender injuries. I don't think we can rely on Dennis Hildeby, the Hildebeest, to be a stud each and every night. Got to start getting some offense from other characters, and Willie especially needs to step his game up.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that need to. And I've had talks with people about this. Sometimes you feel the group isn't playing well. And that's not always the best approach, but sometimes you take one player and you make them the example and saying, look, man, if you guys aren't picking up, I have no problem demoting a guy like Nylander to a different line if he's not playing to expectations. And we've seen the healthy scratch of Max Domi. Like, we're starting to see Craig Berube start to push those buttons more than we have in the past.
Well, and they seem to be working. Right? Like Dakota Joshua, he got healthy scratched. He's been great since he got back. Max Domi is finally playing a respectable level of hockey since he returned from his night up in the press box. So you're not going to scratch William Nylander. I don't think that's warranted. But you demote him, you take away some minutes, and you demote him by putting him on the third line. Maybe that's what will kind of wake him up and realize, oh man, I got to get going. I don't know if you've ever been in this circumstance, like back when you were in high school or when you played sports. But I can tell you from personal experience, like when I was playing high school football, I was a starter for 3 years, and then for whatever reason, there was 1 week where I don't know if I took my foot off the pedal, but my coach comes up to me and he's like, "There's going to be an open competition this week for your starting position at center." And this other kid, Billy Delzell, was in competition with me. You bet your ass, David, I gave 110% in practice the following 2 days and earned my job back. And sometimes that's what you need, right? Sometimes you just need that little slice of humble pie to realize that your game has slipped a little. It's not to the standard that it needs to be for you, for your teammates, for your coach, for the organization. And, that's kind of where it's been at with William Nylander. Part of it could be injury, could be fighting through some stuff for sure, but still got to expect and demand a little bit more from him. That's the bottom line. So that was kind of the big news of the day. And there was also some more Maple Leaf updates as well, including an update on Chris Tanev. So we'll get to that. Could the Maple Leafs be involved in the Quinn Hughes sweepstakes? I got a thought on that too. And we got to preview Leafs Sharks tonight. Macklin Celebrini in town. That's next in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that are adjusting instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, David Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can also find the video version up on YouTube and subscribe there as well. So the Maple Leafs in action tonight. They've got Macklin Celebrini coming to town, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people excited to go down to Scotiabank Arena to get their eyes on this kid because he's been unbelievable. I mean, he has exceeded all expectations of, I think, what people expected Macklin Celebrini to become. So that's going to be a show tonight at Scotiabank Arena. We'll preview that in just a moment, but I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and it was regarding Quinn Hughes, and we were talking about, some teams that could be interested. And, I threw, what about Toronto? Could Toronto possibly make a move for Quinn Hughes? How often do we talk about the Maple Leafs needing a puck-moving defenseman, a number one puck-moving defenseman? I mean, been talking about this for years. Ever since they traded away Caberlet, realistically, they've been on the hunt, searching for that guy. Does Quinn Hughes not fit the bill there, Dave?
I mean, he's among the elite. Like, when you're talking about franchise number one defenseman, Quinn Hughes is near the top of the list, right? It's almost like Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, Victor Hedman. Those three guys every year battle for the Norris Trophy. Like, obviously now, Hedman dealing with the injuries this year and stuff like that, but like, it's been those guys that have kind of like laid the law down in terms of the standard for defensemen, right, in this league. So yeah, Quinn, it's such a fast. Well, if you're a Canucks fan, this is absolute nightmare fuel because this has just been wheel spinning for God knows how long since Sedin's left.
Yeah, maybe? Basically, yeah. Yeah, it's been just a wild scene ever since the Sedin's left, basically, during the Jim Benning era into this Rutherford era. And last year you had the situation with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. They end up trading away Miller, didn't really get a terrific return from him. And now they might be in a similar situation where it's just like, well, now, Quinn Hughes is kind of on the block. They're listening to offers. It sounds like he wants to go east. I think his most likely destination, or the place he'd want to go most, would be New Jersey to play with his brothers. But the Maple Leafs, should the Leafs, I guess, at least pick up the phone and see what it would take to get Quinn Hughes? Do they even have the assets to get a Quinn Hughes, I guess, is where we could start. Like, what would you be willing to give up? Because I guarantee you any conversation you start to have with the Vancouver Canucks regarding Quinn Hughes, it has to start with at least Matthew Nyes, and you're going plus on top of that, right?
Oh, yeah. He's probably, if you're looking, because we know Vancouver Canucks want a return that's going to still make them competitive because they refuse to use the R word in Vancouver. They don't
They're in
want to
last place. They're literally in last place.
Yeah.
Like, God.
It's crazy. And so when you look at, there's so many teams that are apparently poking around on this. Like I heard, obviously, New Jersey, Detroit, Philly.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any other team I've heard recently. Like the Vancouver Canucks can drive a hard bargain right now because there are multiple teams involved. I don't know about Quinn Hughes' trade protection. I don't think he really has. I don't know if he has a no movement clause. I can't remember
I don't believe so.
deal.
You can't have a no move until you are until you reach UFA status, which he hasn't yet. So there's no trade protection. So they can send him wherever he wants, but he only has one more year left on his contract.
And that's the big one there, right?
Yeah.
If a team is making this sort of move, they need some assurance that they can work out an extension with them.
Yes, but technically, legally, you can't talk extension until July 1st.
Yeah.
Technically. I mean, we all know how the game works. They can have something, top drawer dealer, whatever it may be, potentially. But, like Carolina did that last year with Rantanen, thinking, yeah, we'll bring him in and then we'll probably find, get a deal to work. And it didn't. And they had to move on from him again, trade him to Dallas, who then gave him the contract he was looking for. But yeah, when you look at Quinn Hughes, I think any team would be lucky to have a Quinn Hughes in their lineup. I think the Maple Leafs, it's interesting because, again, I was having the conversation earlier whether or not they should be in on him. And my answer is yes. I think they should. I really, really do. Now, like everything, it's contingent on what the price is. And if it starts with Matthew Nyes, the only difficulty I have and the hang up I have is the contract situation. If Hughes is only here for 1 year, that's where it's dicey. That's where it's like, I don't think you can give up Matthew Nyes, who just signed long-term, for 1 year and maybe he comes back. You would have to have some sort of assurance, kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, if you even were to consider moving Nyes for a Quinn Hughes. I don't think it's worth it if Hughes is going to walk as a free agent next year. I don't think it's worth it for that.
Yeah.
But if you could get some sort of assurance that he's here long term, that would be something I would entertain, kind of as the centerpiece of a package. Like I said, it's obviously plus, but as a centerpiece of the package, I think the Maple Leafs, should and would offer up Matthew Nyes in those conversations.
That's what makes this deal very tough right now. Teams would rather wait until they have the opportunity to speak to him. And look
but you can also get him for 2 playoff runs, realistically.
You can, which is valuable to the teams. And if you make a good enough impression on Hughes, right, he probably would say, "Yeah, there's a good chance I stick around."
Yeah,
it is a major gamble, but if you're looking at players that you're going to make a gamble on, especially on the blue line, he's one of those players you're going to do it, right?
So what would that package be, right? Well, we'll role play. I'm Jim Rutherford. You're Brad Treliving. You're calling me up. And you're trying to bring in Quinn Hughes. What's your offer?
I do think that it's going to have to start with it will have to start with Matthew Nyes. I don't think if you're telling Vancouver Matthew Nyes is not a part of the deal, they hang up the phone right then and there. They're probably also going to want a defenseman back. So I guarantee Ben Danford is also going to have to be thrown into that, which is, again, tough, right? But I've seen similar types of deals, Erik Karlsson being one of them, where you give a good NHL player, decent prospect, and it's probably going to have to include a first-round pick in there somewhere.
Which like a 20. That's where things may
Oh,
get hung up with Toronto. Is like they don't have a recent first round pick. Like
it's
I don't think
2028 or 2029.
Yeah, so like you're talking 2-3 years down the road before you can even get that selection. And if you're Vancouver, you're probably not all that interested in draft picks that late, I guess. So that's kind of where I think it maybe hits a snag. But I don't think you're wrong. I think probably Nyes, Danford. You probably throw something else in there too. I would think it probably would be like a 4-piece trade, like Nyes, Danford. I'm trying to think of what else they realistically have. Like, they've got some goaltending, kind of situations. Do they take one of the goalies, as part of that deal?
I think they want a center. David Kampf was playing first line center, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Elias Pettersson was.
Who do the Leafs have?
You're gonna try to get someone. Remember, the main part of the piece is Matthew Nyes and Van Danford. You're gonna throw in like a center, maybe one of the AHL guys, like a Quillen, Haynes.
Any better than David Kampf?
I mean,
no, they're not. They're not. So it doesn't.
The problem here is if Vancouver is expecting that this Quinn Hughes trade is going to help them this year.
No, you can't sit there and be like, well, they're going to need a center back, so like maybe they'll want Jacob Quillen. Like, how's Jacob Quillen going to help?
Max Domi. How about that? Max Domi. Throw Max Domi in there.
I got a crazy trade proposal for you, Dave. I agree. They do need a center. I do agree with you. I do. Are you ready for this?
All right.
I'm Brad Treliving. I'm calling up Davey Morassutti over here, a.k.a. Trader Jim Rutherford. I say, look, I want Quinn Hughes, okay? I want Quinn Hughes on my Toronto Maple Leafs. I know you need a center. Obviously. Everyone needs centers. Everyone wants a center. I've got a guy who once scored 69 goals in the NHL. He's got a few years left on his contract, so it's not a one-and-done situation like your star player. Would you have any interest in Austin Matthews as part of a package for Quinn Hughes?
As part of a package for Quinn Hughes?
Not Matthews plus.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that.
You want actually, what would actually make some sense? This might make some sense here. Call me crazy if I'm crazy on this one. This is total fanboy. This is HF Boards 101 right here. But Austin Matthews and Morgan Riley for Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson. Who says no?
Man, Leafs fans might. If you are crazy and not happy with William Nylander, Elias Pettersson might be even more frustrating for you to watch.
Possibly,
but maybe a change. And Craig Berube is going to have to really get on board with that. Like, he'll love having Quinn Hughes, but that love for Quinn Hughes might almost get bounced out by the
thing with Pettersson. I don't know. Like, Pettersson at one point, prior to him losing his talent, I don't know what the hell happened. The Monstars came in and sucked his talent away. He was like a Selke candidate. So that game's in there for him to be that. And the only reason why I bring it up where it's like where you would possibly even think about putting Austin Matthews in these discussions is if you are the Toronto Maple Leafs, you look at Austin Matthews, you're thinking you're not the player you once were. And if they notice that internally, that because of the injuries that he's suffered, he can't get to that level, maybe they can go in a different direction and bring in a Quinn Hughes and use that as part of, maybe it's a more sizable deal, but that was the only kind of reasoning, I suppose, for making that trade. If you don't think Austin Matthews can get back to being that perennial 50-goal guy that the Maple Leafs need him to be to have success, then maybe you possibly go in a different direction and you bring in that stud, young, two-way defenseman who's putting up numbers that only Bobby Orr ever put up, and Kel McCarr, I guess, as well. Am I crazy? Am I crazy for that thought?
I just know Austin Matthews will probably say no to that in a heartbeat, and that's where obviously it's not the craziest thing, right? You know, I look back because like I'm just trying to think what Vancouver will want, and it's to have stuff right now that's going to help you, and like this isn't like when the Senators traded Erik Karlsson to San Jose and they got a boatload of young pieces and draft picks. Like,
Leafs
Josh
can't offer
Norris
that.
was probably the only big, like in terms of NHL, like ready talent. Josh Norris,
Even he was like a couple years out from being an established NHL when they traded for him. It took a little bit for him to develop.
Like, do you remember? Like that trade was a monster deal. Like in terms of how much San Jose gave up, they gave up
a lot of pieces. They have a lot of pieces
because also salary was a part of it too, right? Chris Tierney, Dylan DeMello, Josh Norris, Rudolph Balcers, a first-round pick in either 2019, 2020, second-round pick, a conditional second-round pick, and a conditional first-round pick.
Yeah, so those draft picks like the Balcers, the Tierney, the DeMellos, like those were kind of just, I think, throw-ins to make the money work. But basically, they gave up 2 first-round picks and Josh Norris. It's kind of what it turned out to, right? A couple high picks and Josh Norris, and I think with one of those picks, they ended up turning it into either Sanderson or Stützle, whichever one was the Sharks and the Sabres, but they ended up getting both those players in the same draft because of it. So it worked out for them, obviously, but the Leafs don't have the luxury to make that type of deal. It's got to be a hockey trade. If Toronto's going to swing a deal for Quinn Hughes, it has to be a hockey trade. And there's really only, I think, 3 players that would have any interest for the Vancouver Canucks, and that would be Matthew Knies, Austin Matthews, or William Nylander. If you're not willing to include one of those 3 players, then the Vancouver Canucks are hanging up right away. They're not even going to have a discussion with you unless one of those 3 guys are included. And if it's Knies, it's plus.
And here's the other part of it too, is that how much leverage does Vancouver have in this situation? Because there's the rumors that, you know, he's looking to maybe line up with it and play with his brother, right? With his brothers. Sorry, both of them, right? So that was part of the whole, do the Canucks get ahead of this now? But and especially where the Canucks are, teams are not just going to be throwing out, hey, we'll give you exactly what you want. There's going to be a bit of a, back and forth, I think.
Well, I'll say this, because Hughes doesn't have any trade protection,
they pick the best package.
It goes to the highest bidder, so it doesn't really matter, right? It's not usual that a superstar has no trade protection. Usually they can kind of pick where they go or have some say, and maybe they'll do good by Hughes, their captain, and put him on a team that he'd prefer. Like Ty goes to, Hughes's preference, but I don't think that teams are going to be able to leverage, Hughes against Vancouver. I think there'll be enough of a bidding war, enough teams will be interested in Quinn Hughes, or should be, where they should be able to get a pretty sizable package in return for Quinn Hughes. For me, I would be shocked at this point, based on everything we've heard. I would be shocked if Quinn Hughes made it through the NHL trade deadline as a Vancouver Canuck. I don't think he's going to end up in Toronto. I'm being very kind of, facetious with this conversation.
Hey, we got to throw that out there as a
I'm just trying to be creative, trying to stir the pot. Clearly, Matthews for Hughes is never happening. It's Hughes is not coming to Toronto. They don't have the assets to really get it done, obviously. But I do think that he is going to get dealt somewhere. And there's a lot of teams.
When the chatter is picking up like this, if it doesn't happen, like how does Quinn Hughes continue to play in Vancouver, knowing that at any moment he can get traded?
I heard the coach today come out and say, like, yeah, the chatter's real. Like it's getting into the room. It's impacting the room. And that might force Vancouver's hand to make that deal sooner rather than later. It's kind of what forced them to make the JT Miller trade, right? It just got so unbearable in the room that they just had to get through that situation, right? By moving him and getting over that. And they might have to do the same thing and kind of hurry up the Hughes deal if the chatter continues to be this loud. But something to watch for sure moving forward. A really good player, and whoever ends up with Quinn Hughes is going to be really, really lucky to get them. Really lucky were the San Jose Sharks when they drafted Macklin Celebrini first overall in the draft last year. He is having an exceptional sophomore season. We'll come back. We'll tee up tonight's Leafs and Sharks game and dig into the numbers. Just how special is Macklin Celebrini? We'll get into that next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch. The holidays are amazing, but they can also get overwhelming fast. Travel, gifts, parties, year-end expenses, it's really easy to lose track of your money this time of year, and that's exactly why Monarch has become such a game changer for us. If you want to keep up with your finances and have them under control this holiday season, you need to be using Monarch, rated Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, simple dashboard. The holiday spending counter can become a lifesaver. You can see exactly what's left in your gift and travel budget in real time. Monarch makes money check-in simple, just a minute or two each week, and you're completely up to speed. In minutes, you can check your net worth, link all your accounts, and keep track of your contributions before deadlines. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code LOCKEDONNHL.
Welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, David Morassutti with you. And if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more. It's all built for the most loyal fans and listeners of the Locked On Network. Click on the link we have down in the description below for more information and join our team's community. Leafs taking on the San Jose Sharks tonight, and Macklin Celebrini is going to be in town. A bit of that's a superstar. That's a superstar right there. Like that term gets thrown out about a lot of people, and sometimes it's a little bit it's a little hyperbolic. But I think Macklin Celebrini at age 19, he's now 101 games into his NHL career. Dave, he's got 106 points. I just saw a stat the other day. I guess now he's played 101 games, but through 100 games in their NHL careers, Sidney Crosby has the most points among active players, right? Crosby had 132 points in his first 100 games, followed by Alex Ovechkin, then Gino Malkin, then Kirill Kaprizov, then Connor McDavid, and then Macklin Celebrini comes in sixth on that list with a very impressive 104 points through his first 100 games of his career, only 4 points shy of Connor McDavid in his first 100 games of his career. Pretty impressive company there, Dave.
Oh, it's very impressive. And, I remember when he got drafted and we were waiting for him to kind of, take that step into the NHL, and like he went the NCAA route. So, we weren't really sure what his ceiling was going to be.
I didn't think he was going to be this. I thought
we did not hear generational,
no elite player,
scoring type of player.
Yeah, we thought he could be like a John Tavares type player, like really respectable NHL career, borderline, Hall of Fame level of career. This guy's turned into a generational talent. I mean, I saw the other day someone say, if Celebrini and Bedard continue to do what they're doing, it's this generation's Crosby Ovechkin, where they went number one overall in back-to-back years. And then those guys battled year in, year out in the Eastern Conference. This is the Western Conference's version of that 20 years later with Celebrini and Connor Bedard. It's really, really fascinating, really fun to watch. Both of which top 5 in league scoring as of the recording of this podcast. Top 4, actually. Celebrini third with 43 points in 31 games. Bedard 42 points in 30 games. Only McKinnon and McDavid have more than those two. Impressive stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean it's quite impressive, and San Jose, if they can figure out the other parts of that roster, like if I'm the Pacific Division, like you see a team like San Jose being led by Macklin Celebrini, and they got other guys like Will Smith, William Eklund, like there's some pieces there, Michael Miza, right? Like they got some young talent coming in the wings there.
Yeah.
It's not all there yet. There's a lot of other parts. They're still technically in the building stage of the rebuild. Like they're obviously a lot further along than we've seen the last few years, but it helps when you have a guy like Celebrini. Other players will now take notice, and when it comes to recruiting players or bringing in players, now they got a lot of the assets that they've done other moves with. They can start adding to this team.
Yeah, I mean, that just completely puts your rebuild into overdrive. Like the way that Austin Matthews did for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the way that Connor McDavid did for the Edmonton Oilers. Macklin Celebrini is doing this with the San Jose Sharks. No one expected for them to have the season that they're having. They're right on the cusp of a playoff spot. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Like you said, they're still a building team. But this kid's super special. Let's take a look at the projected lineup for the Sharks tonight as they mosey their way into Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs. So obviously, Macklin Celebrini is your top line center, and he's centering a line of Colin Graff and for fellow rookie. I guess it's not fellow, but Will Smith.
Fellow top 3 pick, Will Smith.
Yeah, fellow top 3 pick, Will Smith. Will Eklund, Wenberg, and Toffoli as your second line. Adam Gaudette, former Maple Leaf. Marley? Did he play with the Leafs? Yeah, I think he got a couple games. Cup of coffee with the Buds, I think.
I think he was just with the Marlies.
Maybe it was just the Marlies. Anyways, Gaudette, Delandria, and Phil Kurashev. Ryan Reeves makes his return, and he will be playing. He will be playing tonight. Revo with Ostapchuk and Barclay Goudreau. You've got Orlov and Timothy Liljegren as your top pair. Mario Ferraro and John Klingberg as your second pair. And Sam Dickinson and Nick Leddy as your third pair. And Yaroslav Askarov, the projected starting goaltender for tonight.
I like how in the IRL, Carey Price.
Yeah, I had to do that. Because I forgot that Carey Price was part of this team. And then when I went and took a look at the lineup, I was like, oh, right, Carey Price is technically on IR. Really dumb. But anyways, a couple things. I mean, obviously, there's a strong former Leaf flair here. You've got Timmy Liljegren and John Klingberg, 2 Leaf castaways from last season. And then Ryan Reeves, obviously, who was sent to San Jose to resume his career. The Leafs just simply weren't going to play him in the NHL, and they found a team willing to take him on. And I think Henry Thrun, actually, who was the return for Reeves, is going to play in this game tonight alongside Simon Benoit. So both parties getting to play their former clubs. Thrun on a line with Simon Benoit, I believe. So there's the projected lineup for the San Jose Sharks, and we can quickly look at the Leaf lineup just because there is a slight change. So we noted that Nylander's on the third line with Joshua Noah, which means Nick Robertson, top 6 Nicky Bobby, checks back in alongside Tavares and Cowan, and the first and fourth line remains the same. Obviously, no Bobby McMahon, but you see there Henry Thrun with Simon Benoit. So Thrun making his Leafs debut tonight. Player to watch, Dave. Who's the player to watch for the San Jose Sharks?
There's this guy named Macklin Celebrini. May have heard of him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
League lead in points. You're going to hear a lot about Macklin Celebrini on the broadcast. Guarantee. right?
Yeah.
There's been a big talk about him pushing for a spot in the Olympics. At this rate, if you don't have Macklin Celebrini on your Team Canada roster, don't know what you think. I don't know how you leave one of the top goal scorers, top point getters in the league off that list. Yeah, he's done a great job, and I feel like some people are I don't think understand when you've got a player like this playing on the West Coast on the Pacific time, for him to get the amount of fanfare he is getting right now, similar to what Connor McDavid gets, shows the type of player he's become.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, man. He is an exceptional talent, and the Buds certainly going to have to make sure they know where he is on the ice at all times. For the Maple Leafs, it's got to be William Nylander, right? Has to be. No goals, no points in his last 4 games, and he's been demoted to the third line. So there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on William Nylander to see if the demotion lit a fire under his you-know-what. So he's our locked-on player to watch for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Keys to the game, quickly, Dave.
Keep Celebrini in check. There's one guy everyone's going to be talking about, and it's the one guy you got to be watching for on the ice. There are other players on the Sharks. We did mention a few of them, but Celebrini is the guy. He's the McKinnon. He's the McDavid. He's that type of player for them. So you got to do your best to keep him in check, which means you got to be playing connected. You got to make sure that you're not having those breakdowns in defensive coverage, making sure you're transitioning. Your transition game is going well. Avoid the turnovers. And look, San Jose gives up a lot of goals. 103, I think they're at, and among the tops in the leagues in goals against. Their goaltending hasn't been stellar. Get those chances.
Askarov, the last 5 games, he got an .869 save percentage in his last 5 games. And if you look at the San Jose Sharks, they give up a lot of high danger chances. They are ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They give up the 7th most high danger chances per 60 minutes, but give up the similar, they're 7th or 8th most goals, high danger goals as well. High danger save percentage for them, just under 800. So if you get those high danger looks, which Toronto should be able to get, they should find some success. So that is definitely a key for tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. All right, Dave. Good stuff. I'm excited. Should be a really fun game tonight. It's always good to have superstars in town. You got Celebrini, into McDavid, into Connor Bedard. So a lot for us to discuss this week and into next week on the podcast. That'll do it for us here today on the show. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the podcast. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all networks and platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to recap Leafs and Sharks tonight. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.